bell again.
Ring it again? All right. Welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I am President Catherine Staub, and I'm delighted to have all of you here today. We want to start by mourning our fellow Rotarian and former U.S. Congressman Neil Smith, who passed away early this week. Smith was 101 years old, and we were delighted to celebrate his 100th birthday at a Rotary meeting in March of 2020. Smith served in the Army Air Force during World War II, earning a Purple Heart, 9 battle stars, and the Air Medal. As Iowa's longest-serving U.S. House member, Smith worked to address critical issues, especially in the areas of agriculture, education, and small business. Smith's legacy also includes support for development of projects including Saylorville Lake, Lake Red Rock, and the Neil Smith National Wildlife Refuge, among many others. Services at this time are pending at Hamilton's. Watch for his obituary this weekend. That will include details. And at this point, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now we welcome Nick Nelson to the podium to give us a moment of inspiration, followed by the pledge and the four-way test. Nick?
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, so for the moment of inspiration this afternoon, doing a pinch hit for the girlfriend, Katie. For you guys that know her, please give her a hard time when she does come back for doing this to me. Otherwise, for the moment of inspiration, out of the book written by Dale Carnegie, I want to talk about how there was a section in there written about how dogs earned the title of man's best friend and how they got to that. He went into a little script about how they ended up in that position and not people. When you always run into dogs, what do they do for you? There's a lack of communication there most of the time, very, very small amount of communication. They don't do your dishes. Usually you have to do a lot more for them than utilitarian-wise they do for you. In that time, well, what does it get them to that point of being man's best friend? And if you walk up to a dog, what are they doing? They're always wagging their tails, full of enjoyment to meet you. And Dale's correlation to that people and greeting people in that book was that should be our greeting to others. If you want to get that connection with them, build the first greeting is the most important part. When you're meeting somebody, act like you're having the best time of your day, and guess what? That person just made it even better. So it's a moment of inspiration today, and with that, let's go into Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, four-way test.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And now wave at your fellow Rotarians. Thank you, Nick, for pinch hitting for Katie. That makes you, I don't know, the significant other's best friend or something like that. Happy birthday today to two Rotarians, Art Feline and Mark Daines. Are they here? All right, thank you to those of you who've donated to help families this Thanksgiving. If you have not yet donated, or if you would like to give more, there are sheets on the table. You can sign up. $50 will help feed one family, and as you've paid attention to economic news, the cost of putting food on the table for Thanksgiving this year has increased fairly significantly. And so those less fortunate in our community, of course, are hit much harder by that. So I encourage you to give whatever you possibly can. Our goal is to feed 200 families, and as of today, before this meeting, we were only at 75. All right, Jackie Norris, our newest Des Moines School Board member, is now going to introduce our
everybody. I am so excited that I get to introduce Alicia now. Alicia's going to talk about why she's here in terms of her role as President and CEO of Bhe Renewables. But the reason I'm excited to talk about Alicia is because she's also a friend. And one of the best things I think about Des Moines is when you see people in really big jobs, but they're just normal, everyday people just like you and I. And so when I asked Alicia if she would do this, she kind of looked at me and said, what do I have to say? I'm not a big deal. And so it took a little bit of convincing, but we got her to agree to say something. What I really like about Alicia is she's incredibly active in the community, and man, she is hardcore. So all football season, on Fridays, she project managed feeding hundreds of football players, all with a smile on her face and having a very important job. I will not admit, well, I kind of have to tell the story. So for any of you that are working parents, you know, sometimes we make life hacks, right? We try new things to make our lives a little bit easier. I see Erica nodding her head. Well, Alicia maybe had one rough moment where she had this great idea that if she combined peanut butter and jelly and mixed them together and then put them on sandwiches, that was a really great way to save money, or to save time. But I'll tell you, they were gray, and none of the kids ate them, so don't try that one. Anyways, long story short, what I think is really important about Alicia is that she gives to her community. She's whip smart, she's a lot of fun, and I have no doubt that you'll really enjoy the discussion that she's going to lead us in today. So Alicia, come on up.
Pretty good. But I will tell you the reason Jackie knows the story about the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches is because I was so proud of myself when I came back. Like, we had run out, we needed more, and I ran home and whipped them up real fast, and I was back in like 20 minutes, and they didn't eat them. So that's why Jackie knows I was like spreading my life hack. But good afternoon, it's good to be with you, and I was actually supposed to be here in August and had a conflict and couldn't be, so thank you for inviting me again, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to be here with you today. And I did wonder when Jackie mentioned, you should come talk to the Rotary Club. What am I going to talk about? And it sounds like there's some interest in renewable energy, so I can talk about that. But to introduce myself, I'm from Des Moines. I grew up here. I went to Roosevelt High School. And I went to the University of Iowa and then was fortunate enough to come back to Des Moines and start a career at Mid-American Energy, working for the utility in my hometown, which ended up being a pretty fantastic connection for me. I've worked for Berkshire Hathaway Energy companies my entire career. I graduated in '96 from Roosevelt, so 20 years this year at Mid-American and Bhe Renewables, so within the Berkshire Hathaway Energy company family of companies. So a great opportunity for me, worked out quite well and learned a lot along the way. So I'm going to talk specifically about my role at Bhe Renewables, but recognize that I'm a customer of Mid-American, as are all of you. So you'll see a little bit about Mid-American here, but I'll try to talk about renewable energy. And I need the clicker. And it's also turned off, so you might just take that.
Okay, I got it.
All right, so why renewables? Why are you interested in renewables? Why am I working in renewables? When I think back to when I was a kid and started to buy pump bottles of hairspray instead of aerosol, that was me helping the environment, because I had heard about climate change and the hole in the ozone layer, and I'd seen pictures of smoggy cities that I'd never been in, but somehow me buying a pump bottle instead of an aerosol bottle, that was going to fix everything. And as a kid, that's what I knew of climate change. My kids, on the other hand, who are 17 and 14, they know that for some reason part of the country's on fire and part of the country's in a severe drought. They know that we had essentially a hurricane in the middle of the Midwest. So they see these extremes, and so it's very real to them. So where I made my own connections and decided, yeah, I'm going to be good and green, it's really not too hard for our kids to figure out what's going on here, and the problems are very real. And what you can see here is what renewable energy has to do with that. So this is from the U.S. Energy and Information Administration, and the big theme here on the left, you can see basically a shift from carbon emitting resources to clean energy resources of wind, solar, and nuclear, which is not carbon emitting. And then on the right, you can see just how are we making that up. And so in my business, we build, own, and operate renewable energy assets. And so that yellow, that green, that orange that you see over there, even the blue, that's BHE Renewables growing into the energy space. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today, is focusing on decarbonizing our energy operations to support offsetting climate change, reducing climate change, and in a way that, you know, my kids know why I do what I do. My kids know why it's necessary. I definitely didn't, but want to be able to make those changes for their generation and generations beyond that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about BHE Renewables. Owned by Berkshire Hathaway Energy Company, majority owned by Berkshire Hathaway Energy Company. And as I said, you're going to be most familiar with Mid-American, the purple shaded part in the middle of Iowa. And we have a couple of other energy utilities. And so you can see in the northwest, our Rocky Mountain Power and Pacific Power, and Nevada Energy in Nevada. So those are going to be utilities similar to Mid-American. And renewables, BHE Renewables is going to be all those green boxes you see. So I won't spend a lot of time here, but what I will focus on is that at BHE Renewables, we spent $34 billion on renewable energy so far to date. And just to zero in on a couple of items there. So at Mid-American, you can see 31% below the national average price for us, Mid-American's customers. So Mid-American has more than 7 gigawatts of wind, which you've seen, I'm sure, as you travel the state, and all of that has been installed without passing those costs on to customers. And similarly, PacifiCorp, which is up in the northwest, their retail rates are 23% below the national average. So really making a difference for us, the customer. And then just to zero in on BHE Renewables. So these are some of the assets that we own. So wind, solar, hydro, and geothermal. Up on the right, our hydro, we have 10 megawatts in Hawaii. I have not been there, but need to make that a trip. And we actually, this year, will transfer. We have a 100 megawatt plant in the Philippines that we've owned for 20 years. It's not on here because we're in the process of transferring ownership of it to the Philippine government. So that was a build, own, and transfer agreement. We built it, we operated it for 20 years, and now we transfer it to the government. So a fantastic project and really a success for us. And about 20 of those employees were working on transferring to the United States to work at some of our other facilities as well. So making sure that the entire story of BHE being in the Philippines with that project is a good story, and very proud to tell that. On the wind side, you can see we have 1,700 megawatts at BHE Renewables. It's in Illinois, California, Texas, Nebraska, Kansas. And then now we have a project in Iowa, which is in Independence, Iowa, and it should be finished this week. So exciting growth there. Our geothermal assets, that's where it all started actually, for Mid-American Energy as a whole, before it became Bhe Renewables. But these projects were developed in the 90s. We have 345 megawatts of geothermal energy by the Salton Sea. So if you know anything about the Salton Sea, it was created by accident and supposed to be this vacation destination. Turns out the water's pretty toxic, so if you go there now, you'll see old remnants of vacation spots that are not useful at this point in time. But what it is a fantastic geothermal resource, and our plants have been operating for 40 years now, the oldest ones, and it's a closed loop system. You pull the brine up from the ground, you use all that heat to generate power, and it's non-carbon emitting, clean energy from a fantastic resource there near the Salton Sea. And then our solar assets are mostly in California, also some in Arizona and Texas. Twice when I joined Bhe Renewables when it was formed in 2012, it was because we had acquired the Topaz Solar Farms project and there was a lot of work to do. So I left Mid-American and went over and developed the Topaz Solar Farms project, and at that time it was the largest solar farm in the world at 550 megawatts. And then the next year we acquired SolarStar at 586 megawatts, and it was the largest solar farm in the world. And so clearly you can't continue that on forever, but they are both still among the largest solar plants in the world. And in the United States, SolarStar was just overtaken this year by an expansion of an existing project. So if that counts, then it's the second largest in the United States. So those are our operating assets and several developments that we're working on to continue to grow to fill that wedge that you saw in on that first slide. All right, so now I'm going to talk to you about a kind of fun and exciting project, and we were talking about innovation at our table earlier. So in order to actually deliver the renewable energy that we need to meet our renewable energy goals across the United States, we need not just the wind and solar development, we need battery technology, obviously, and we need new technologies and new resources to deliver on that. So one of them that we're pursuing is at Bhe Renewables, and right now our lithium mainly comes from other countries, and then it's sent to China to be processed, and that's how most of our lithium makes its way to the United States for our cell phones and our batteries, and if you have an electric vehicle, for the batteries to operate those. So clearly going to be a significant increase in demand for those batteries, and we're stuck in a loop where we increase our reliance on batteries for our energy that we need to live day to day, but that is coming from foreign countries, and particularly being routed through China to get to us for our end-use products. So lithium has been designated as a critical mineral, so strategic vulnerability for national security and our economy if we don't figure out a way to source lithium domestically. The good news, I talked to you about the Salton Sea, and so our geothermal plants that are located at the Salton Sea are pumping up brine that's full of lithium. And so we're working on a project to extract that lithium from the brine. And to put this in perspective, that Salton Sea region has the highest concentration of lithium in the United States, and it's 15 million metric tons of lithium carbon equivalent is how you say it. It's a mouthful, but that's more lithium than any other country with the exception of Argentina and Chile. So it's not just significant to be able to produce lithium here, that is a significant amount of lithium that we're sitting on and actually pumping through our process right now as we're generating geothermal energy. And so we're pretty excited to be working on a project to extract that lithium from the brine at those plants. And this shows you how it's being done today. And so for all the lithium and all the batteries and all the world, it comes from two places. One is mining for lithium. And so this here is in Argentina. And if you look like right around here, there are some trucks down there. You can't really tell because it's so massive. So clearly this is not how we're going to get lithium from the Salton Sea region, which is extremely environmentally sensitive. Very impactful process there. And then on the right you can see brine pool evaporation. And so that's when you pump the lithium to the surface, the brine to the surface, I'm sorry, and then you spread it out in these pools and it evaporates, and then you can process the lithium from that. So it takes a huge footprint. We do have one of these processes in the United States. It's in Nevada, very small right now, and there are some other projects of both of these types proposed for the United States. But what we're proposing is a much better alternative that does not have these impacts to the environment. And that is to extract the lithium directly from the brine. Yep, you can go ahead. And produce battery grade lithium products. And so where we are in our project, we are building a demonstration plant right now. So we'll do it in 2 phases. The first phase, we will extract the lithium from the brine and turn it into an aqueous solution, a liquid lithium chloride. And in the second phase, another demonstration plant, we will convert that to lithium hydroxide, which will be battery grade to deliver to, you know, folks like Tesla and GM and all the EV manufacturers who are in high demand of this lithium for their EVs, as well as battery manufacturers. So the first plant is under construction now. It'll be done at the beginning of next year. And then the second plant, which completes the process, will be completed at the end of next year. We'll operate those, it's 1/10 scale, and we'll operate those for a year to learn and make sure that we've got the process down and that A, it works, and that it's technically and economically feasible. And then we'll move forward into adding this process onto our existing geothermal operations over the course of 2026 and through 2028. So that's our plan that we're working through. For the first phase, we're working with the California Energy Commission. We have a grant from the California Energy Commission for the lithium recovery, and then for lithium hydroxide demonstration, we were awarded a $15 million grant. Sorry, the California Energy Commission was $6 million. The DOE grant is $15 million to partially for that plant and partially for the engineering of the commercial plant. So very exciting time for us at Bhe Renewables, and assets like this and projects like this, the innovation is just a demonstration of what's going to be needed in order for us to actually meet our energy goals for the future. So that is what I have for you. I covered soup to nuts. Anything you might have thought of or not have thought of was my goal. So I think we have a little time for questions if you have questions. Yes?
We see, so many windmills that have Mid-American energy on them, and you show this one, Independence, Iowa. What's the relationship there between Mid-American's total wind and your company?
No, great question.
Yeah.
So Mid-American, all the turbines that you see that say Mid-American, those are owned by Mid-American Energy Company and serving Mid-American's customers. And so the power that we generate, we're selling to companies like Mid-American. So our customers in California would be PG&E, Southern California Edison. So we're selling to utilities who then sell it to customers, or on the wholesale market generally. And so we don't sell directly to end users because we're not a utility company. So our project in Northeast Iowa is our customer is SIPCO, Central Iowa Power Cooperative, and then they'll deliver it to their customers. Yep, so that's the difference, is not being a utility company, we don't sell directly to the end use customer. How do we? All right.
So
Don't forget to repeat the question.
Oh, okay.
So obviously, there's been a lot in the news lately about the cost of natural gas and how our homes are going to be more expensive to heat this year. Batteries are great, renewable energy is great, I fully support it, but switching to more renewable energy to heat our homes, everyone would need a new furnace. Where do you see that going?
The question, thank you for the reminder. The question was with the in the news you're hearing lately about the increased cost of natural gas that we use to heat our homes here in Iowa. And if we switch to renewables, everybody would need to replace their furnaces with electric furnaces, and where do I see that going? Yes, the price of gas is increasing. We all got very used to very low gas rates for quite some time, and now the price of gas is increasing, and Mid-American passes that cost of gas right on to the customers, and so that's been in the news lately. So electrification in some areas, you do hear about it in some cities. We have I don't need to tell anybody, I'm going to point out the obvious, we have very harsh winters. And so we already have, our summer peak where we're all running our air conditioners. We also have a winter peak for electricity. So to add, basically, put those on top of each other would be extremely significant and change the way that Mid-American would serve you, and it would probably cause some reliability concerns if you tried to get there really fast. So huge cost to the customer to change out your furnaces, and it'd be tough to manage I can afford to change out my furnace, so I'm going to go ahead and do so, and others who can't afford it aren't going to, and that balance. So the shift would require a lot of coordination amongst a lot of parties, but it would be a significant and costly transition to get your furnace, for example, to get everybody's furnaces switched over to electric, and then it would be very expensive to, basically abandon the gas infrastructure and replace it with electric infrastructure, where now you can serve your winter peak plus, double it, or I don't know what the actual number is, to serve those customers in the winter. And by the way, it's not going to be sunny that long. The days are short. It's not the winter is not, the wind's going to blow when it blows. The fall is going to be more windy than the dead of winter. So if you want to switch and rely on renewables, that's where you need more. You need advanced technologies to be able to rely heavier on batteries. You can't get there with just wind and solar right now. So the transition is certainly possible, but there are a lot of steps to it. And to do it too fast would be pretty devastating for customers.
So maybe like a last step sort of thing in shifting to more renewable energy, would you think would be heating our homes? That'd be like the last conversion, so to speak?
It makes sense that way, yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to lead with the infrastructure to support the customers. Yes?
Alicia, thank you for your interesting program. Explain to me why South American and other destination lithium mines have to go through China to get back here for battery grade. Why don't we just go direct to us?
No, that's a great question. The question is, why does the lithium have to go from countries like Argentina and Chile to China to be processed and then come to us? And I would say because that is how China has approached dominating the battery market, is, they don't have the resource, but they've invested in the technology to produce the batteries, produce the battery cells, and we need to build that infrastructure here, but we need to do it in a way that honors our commitment to the environment and to our employees and our natural resources and all of that. And so that is going to take a lot of work, but it's somewhere where we need to get to. So having the resource here, the lithium here, is just the beginning, but bringing those other processes here in a responsible manner is definitely another part of it. And as we know, it tends to be a little bit more expensive to do things the right way, but that's what we're going to have to figure out. Yes, thank you for your question. Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming. What is your Capex budget every year? I mean, you're spending a lot of money. Just kind of curious what your Capex is.
At Bhe Renewables, is that your question? So the question was, what is my Capex budget every year? It's not a question I'm going to be able to answer for you, but it's worth a shot.
Say big, I'll get
All right. Next question. I'll get you with it, but I'm sorry. I feel bad pointing at you, and you, but in the back.
I'm just curious about how your group views biofuels as a renewable energy source, and maybe all of the ones that you're investing in are more interesting or more cost efficient. But how do you view biofuels?
Good question. So the question is, how do we view biofuels? And I'm going to cheat back to when I used to work at Mid-American, but dance along that line. I'm not speaking for Mid-American, but I can tell you that I used to run the gas business at Mid-American, and we did have some renewable natural gas projects that we were working with companies to develop technology and install technology where they could generate renewable natural gas and we could inject it into our system. It is part of the gas that's delivered to our customers now. And so we do look at incorporating biofuels across all of BHE. We don't have any projects that we're looking at right now at BHE Renewables, but we have looked at them and continue to look at them as we see them. They tend to be a lot smaller, so it's hard to achieve kind of economies of scale with some of those projects, but we do look at them, and I think they definitely will be a part of the future, and just need to make sure for some of them that it's clean. If it's, involves burning something, it may not be as clean as it sounds, but there are really good resources that we'll capture, and that will definitely have to be a part of the picture. Yeah, thank you. Here, I think I have a question here.
Thank you. Your answer to this one might be shorter than Skeet's. I saw nuclear didn't grow as a potential technology that we're going to use for power. Is there any nuclear, technologies coming out that get you guys excited? Or is it kind of something that people aren't following up on?
No, that's very good. Actually, that won't be a short answer. So the question is about nuclear. Are there any nuclear technologies that we're looking at? And I worked on a nuclear project for Mid-American a while back when we were looking at installing small modular nuclear here in Iowa, and was super excited about it, and I'm still super excited for when it comes back around. I worked with my friend John Shores here on that project. So yes, the nuclear definitely has a role to play in our energy future. We're not doing anything in nuclear at BHE Renewables, but Pacificor, that escaped me for a second, in the Northwest. So they are looking at a nuclear project and working on replacing one of their coal plants when they decommission their coal plants, installing natrium is the technology that they're looking to use. So it's nuclear plus storage, and looks to be a fantastic solution, but it's kind of like the lithium project where they're going through the demonstration now to make sure that the project works. And so they've announced that they are working with that TerraPower on that project, and we'll go through the demonstration, and assuming that it works, it'll be a great solution because they can use that same workforce from the coal plant, the same resource. It's a very small footprint. Nuclear does great for base load. This nuclear plus storage has the ability to ramp up and down and kind of follow the wind and the solar, follow the renewable resources. So it does seem to be just an ideal solution. And they're at the same phase that we are with the demonstration project. So definitely pursuing those new nuclear technologies, as they will be a part of the future without a doubt. Very long lead time projects, but definitely a part of the picture. Thank you. Yes?
One more?
I don't know. I'll just go till someone tells me to stop. I think we have some over here.
Okay, two-part question. Number one, what are you looking for on the renewable side, not Mid-Am or Berkshire or from the state government to help accelerate your work for the good of the state? What can the state do to help you?
Any state?
This state.
This state. So I actually will answer pretty short on that because I don't work for Mid-American. So I want to make sure that.
Okay, for you, for BHE.
So for BHE, what we tend to do is follow state policies. There are a lot of state policies that are pushing customers to renewables. And so we work with customers in those states to identify solutions to help them achieve their goals. So other than very specific, working with the state of California on the commercialization of our lithium business, we have very specific goals that we're working on. And I apologize, I did not repeat the question, was what do we need from states? And I know that all of my partners in the utility industry could tell you exactly what they would like from their states, but for our part at Bhe Renewables, we're really focused on working with customers and delivering the solutions that already there are a lot of states that support those programs, and it's just people scrambling to try to meet them.
You did a great job, so the second half will be a lot easier.
Okay.
Do you work in the offices in this building or not?
No, my office is in Urbandale. I'm here sometimes, but generally I work in Urbandale.
Irrespective of that, would you consider joining this club?
Don't answer.
Okay. I'm on the advice of counsel.
I've never asked a speaker that on the floor.
Wow, I feel so honored and pressured. And
It's both.
All right, thank you. Yes.
If you could speak to what's the potential to expand wind and parallel solar generation capacity in Iowa, if you can speak to that, or if not, the Midwest scale, relative to where we're at, what's the upside or limitations?
I can't give you, so the question is, what is the capacity to expand renewables, so wind and solar in Iowa? And I can't give you a number, but what I can tell you is we need a lot more transmission infrastructure in Iowa to support the expansion. And so you can build the projects, but if it probably will make sense. So we can produce the energy, but the transmission lines are going to get it from where we generate it to where our customers are using it. And they can only carry so much energy at any given time. And so we need to make more outlets from the areas where the renewable energy is available to where our customers need to use it. So that's where we need to focus right now at Mid-American. So in order to have a huge expansion, we really need more transmission. And that's not just in Iowa or at Mid-American, that is across the country, which is why you hear so much about transmission investments being part of the infrastructure bill to open an entire gigantic can of worms. But it is really to that point where a lot of the resources you see even on our map, we built the world's largest solar farm twice in the middle of the desert in California. Well, you can only do that so long, and we have to get into different areas. If it's solar and you're competing with the other uses of the land, it's a lot easier in the desert than it is in Iowa. And so we're looking at smaller projects and really fitting into that niche in a lot of ways. But transmission is pretty key for a step change.
So there's the conditions, there's potential here. We can't get it out to be able to make it worthwhile. Take it up to the users.
I don't want to say it definitively like we can't get it out, because we do continue to find areas that we can expand, but are definitely looking at transmission to be able to continue to grow. Mid-American invested in renewables early on and didn't stop, and our customers, our Mid-American's customers received 84% of their energy from renewables last year, and Mid-American has a target for 100, and customers saying, when are you going to get there? So there's a huge demand for it, and we're continuing to build it, but also recognizing we're going to need some more transmission investment to get there. Yes, thank you.
So do you partner with Bitcoin mining to consume some of this excess capacity that we have in renewables?
That's an interesting question. So the question is, do we partner with Bitcoin mining to use some of the excess capacity? I have a Bitcoin miner in my house, I think.
You do.
Yeah. Those kids. So not directly. Bitcoin mining is a bit of a riddle for a lot of the utilities because their customers are doing it and does wonky things to your load that you have to follow and adjust to. As far as going and actually marketing to Bitcoin miners as an offtake for us. It's interesting. The problem is they're so dispersed. I'd be like, hey, do you want to sign up for, my 100 megawatt wind farm? So it's an interesting question. I think the disaggregation of Bitcoin mining makes it a particularly challenging question. I know that's not a great answer, but you got me thinking.
Let's have coffee.
Okay. All right.
Question, is hydrogen part of your portfolio?
Hydrogen is not part of our portfolio. It's something that we look at. There's a lot, you can make hydrogen from pretty much anything. So in the renewable space, in order to generate hydrogen or create hydrogen, which would be the green hydrogen, it takes a lot of water. And so there's give and take for any way that you're going to produce hydrogen. And it's something that we look at, but we don't have any real projects in place to go after hydrogen right now. Yes.
Let's toggle back to transmission.
Okay.
I have a Swedish Facebook friend who was in China hooking up their solar with high voltage direct current. England just hooked on to Norway about 2 or 3 months ago. 3 years from now, they're going to be hooked up to Algeria's solar for years. Yeah, I really think transmission is the weak link in the whole energy scheme. And and we have this image of miles and miles and miles of wire versus the cable that's big around. The United States, I think, what do we have, like 100 miles of high voltage direct current? And it's the industry standard the world around, and we don't even know what it means. So, and that's where the locally owned monopolies are a real detriment. You got people passing. So that you could have your California farm talking directly to Des Moines, with nobody in between. So, are you looking at high voltage direct current? Her company is Hitachi, if that means it.
Okay. The question is, are we looking at high voltage direct current, which generally speaking would be, you're used to seeing transmission poles and wires above ground. High voltage direct current would generally be underground, the projects you're referring to, right? So the short answer would be yes. And so I agree with you, connecting regions is a huge part of achieving truly 100% zero carbon emissions across the entire United States, let alone any smaller region, or even for us, 100% carbon-free energy is our goal at BHE, at Berkshire Hathaway Energy, across all of our businesses. So yes, to answer your question, it is definitely something that we look at and part of the solution.
Comes down Tesla was wrong, but that's almost a religion to say that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia, for that informative and fascinating presentation today. We are donating a book in your honor through our Rotary Rosie Reader Van through the Des Moines Public Library Foundation. I got it today. Last year, our Rotary Club donated $40,000 through our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation to purchase that van. I'm not going to try it twice. Through our community grant program. Upcoming meetings next week, November 11th, Veterans Day, we have Quilts of Valor. We're going to meet at the River Center again next week. That's where we met back in September on the 23rd. So maps are in the lobby and will be included in the sign up in Friday's email. On the 18th, we're back here. We have Jesse Dunker with the Iowa Restaurant Association, and November 25th already is Thanksgiving, so no meeting that day. Thank you to everybody who joined us today, and to Alicia for that fabulous presentation, and thank you everyone for being a member of Rotary Club of Des Moines. Oh, and remember to fall back this weekend. We're adjourned.